Welcome to Inspirational True Stories, the hub of the most dramatic, emotional, and captivating stories from Reddit. Get ready to experience every shade of emotion and uncover surprising secrets. That necklace, how long have you had it? A question that unravels a world of memories and mysteries. Follow us to catch stories that will make you reflect and discover with us. Clara stood outside the orphanage, a place she'd called home for 19 years, feeling a profound blend of emotions that tugged at her heart. The sturdy red brick building, towering with an almost somber dignity, seemed to stare back at her, holding memories of friendships, laughter, and occasional heartbreak. The familiarity of its walls had provided her with comfort and a sense of safety. Yet, as she took a step forward, leaving that haven behind, there was an undeniable thrill coursing through her, a longing for the new life awaiting her. This wasn't just a physical departure, it was an emotional leap into the unknown, a journey of self-discovery and hope. Leaving the orphanage that had sheltered her for 19 years felt both liberating and daunting, she thought, her mind flashing with images of her closest friends waving goodbye from the windows, their faces both happy and sorrowful. The path forward led her to the grand mansion of William Prescott, a place renowned for its grandeur as much as its aloofness. Clara had prepared herself, rehearsing lines and steeling her nerves. Yet, upon arrival, she was greeted by a man with a stern countenance that seemed to embody the very essence of the mansion's formality. His name was Henry, the butler, and he eyed her with the cold scrutiny of a man who had seen many come and go, few meeting the expectations set by the Prescott family. "I hope you understand the responsibility of this position. The Prescott family demands perfection," he stated, his voice devoid of warmth, as if testing her resilience. Clara, though nervous, met his gaze, her tone steady. "I understand, Mr. Henry. I won't disappoint you." She could feel her pulse quicken, but her resolve hardened. This was her chance to prove herself, to step out of the shadows of the orphanage and forge a path that was uniquely hers. Within days, Clara found herself immersed in a world of high standards and endless tasks. From polishing antiques to arranging the sprawling gardens, she threw herself into her duties with a precision that surprised even herself. But Henry's watchful eye was unrelenting, his criticisms sharp and precise. Each day seemed a trial of endurance, his exacting standards leaving no room for error. Yet, in moments of quiet respite, Clara found solace in the mansion's garden, a hidden sanctuary amidst her demanding routines. Surrounded by blooming flowers and the gentle melodies of birds, she felt a surge of calm that renewed her strength. She drew from this quiet place, letting the beauty of nature fortify her against the relentless challenges posed by Henry. The tranquility grounded her, transforming her initial frustrations into a fierce determination to succeed. Several weeks passed and Clara grew accustomed to the rhythm of life within the mansion, navigating its demands with a quiet resilience. Then one day, as she was meticulously scrubbing the kitchen countertops, a new figure entered her life. William Prescott himself, recently returned from a business trip, walked into the room. Clara hadn't expected to encounter him so soon, and the suddenness of his presence left her slightly flustered. As he glanced around the room, his gaze fell on her. But his attention shifted quickly to the necklace she wore, a simple piece she had always carried, a small, unremarkable pendant with immense personal significance. William's expression softened, almost imperceptibly, as he looked at the necklace. "That necklace, have you had it long?" he asked, his voice tinged with a note of curiosity, almost disbelief. Clara, momentarily taken aback by his question, instinctively touched the pendant. "Yes, ever since I can remember. It's the only memory I have of my past," she replied, sensing an inexplicable connection in his eyes. That brief encounter with William planted a seed of mystery, an intangible feeling that something about her origins might be more significant than she'd ever imagined. For reasons unclear to her, William seemed affected, perhaps even haunted, by the sight of her necklace. As he left the kitchen that day, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that her presence in the mansion might be stirring emotions and questions that even the powerful William Prescott was not prepared to confront. Unbeknownst to Clara, that moment in the kitchen had set William on a path of his own, a silent investigation driven by a mixture of hope, curiosity, and an underlying sense of dread. Later that evening, he placed a call to an old friend, Jonathan, a detective with an unwavering dedication to uncovering truths. "Spare no resource, Jonathan. I need to know everything about Clara's history," William instructed, his tone grave. The prospect of a potential familial connection lingered in his mind, challenging the certainties he'd held for years. "Jonathan, always efficient," replied without hesitation. "Consider it done. I'll keep you updated with every lead." As William hung up, a mix of anticipation and trepidation washed over him. What if this young woman held the key to a past he had long tried to bury? For Clara, life within the mansion continued with its usual demands and challenges, but the encounter with William lingered in her mind. She had grown up in the orphanage with only fragments of her past, and now, for the first time, she felt a glimmer of possibility that she might belong somewhere, a notion that filled her with equal parts excitement and apprehension. Little did she know that her presence in the Prescott mansion would unravel secrets woven into its very foundation. Secrets that could reshape her understanding of who she was and why she had arrived at this grand but lonely place. The days at the Prescott mansion continued in a ceaseless stream of tasks and expectations, a demanding rhythm that Clara took on with relentless dedication. Each morning, she rose before dawn, her duties beginning with scrubbing floors, polishing silverware, and ensuring every surface gleamed with the exacting standard Henry, the butler, demanded. Henry's critical eye followed her at every turn, his voice sharp as he inspected her work. No effort seemed to be enough, and his comments were pointed, each one a reminder of the high bar she was expected to meet. Yet each word only steeled her determination further, deepening her resolve to prove herself. Although Clara's hands ached from the endless cleaning, and her spirit felt the weight of Henry's exacting demands, she persevered, channeling her energy into each task with a quiet grit. In moments stolen from the relentless pace of her duties, Clara sought out the peace of the mansion's sprawling garden. Here, among the delicate blossoms and winding paths, she found a rare sanctuary. Standing beneath the old trees, she would close her eyes, breathing in the earthy scent of flowers, letting the tranquil atmosphere fill her with a sense of renewal. These brief interludes became her refuge, a place where she could shed the weight of her responsibilities and find a semblance of calm amidst the grandeur and exacting expectations of her new life. It was in the garden that her resilience began to blossom, transforming frustration into quiet determination, the beauty of nature fortifying her against Henry's cold scrutiny. Over time, Clara developed a rhythm, her routine falling into place despite the demands placed upon her. Yet, Henry's demeanor remained unchanged. He watched her with a skeptical air, his gaze unwavering, his assessments harsh. One afternoon, as Clara meticulously dusted an ornate vase in the hallway, he appeared at her side, his expression unreadable as he examined her work. "You missed a spot," he remarked, pointing to a barely noticeable speck of dust near the base. Clara bit back a retort, her response calm but firm as she wiped the spot clean. Despite his relentless criticism, she refused to allow his words to discourage her. She was here for a reason, and every challenge only served to strengthen her resolve. Yet amidst these exhausting daily trials, Clara's life was about to take an unexpected turn. One evening, as she finished tidying up the grand sitting room, William Prescott returned from another extended business trip. This time, their encounter was more than just a fleeting exchange. She was adjusting the curtains when she noticed his gaze lingering on her, his eyes dark and thoughtful. William's presence was imposing, yet there was something else, a quiet intensity in his expression that piqued Clara's curiosity. He was observing her with an interest that seemed to go beyond the mere presence of a servant in his household. Later that evening, William found Clara in the kitchen, cleaning up the remnants of the evening meal. He approached her without preamble, his gaze intense, as though wrestling with something unsaid. She felt his eyes fix on the pendant hanging around her neck, the same necklace he'd inquired about weeks before. He spoke suddenly, his voice low, but charged with an urgency she hadn't heard before. "That necklace, are you certain you've had it since you were a child?" he asked, his tone betraying an unexpected vulnerability. Clara nodded, her fingers brushing over the familiar pendant, a symbol of the only connection to her past she had. "Yes, it's all I have from before the orphanage," she replied, watching as his face flickered with something she couldn't quite place. After a brief silence, William's curiosity seemed to sharpen, and he left abruptly, his footsteps echoing through the halls. What Clara didn't know was that her necklace had stirred memories within William, memories that spanned years of loss and unanswered questions. Clara's mere presence in his home was unraveling emotions and uncertainties that he'd locked away. That night, William placed a second call to his detective friend, Jonathan, his voice filled with a rare sense of urgency. "Jonathan, I need you to dig deeper," he said, his tone firm. "This young woman, Clara, she might be connected to someone from my past. Search every possible record. I need answers, and I need them quickly." Days passed and Clara resumed her routine, unaware of the questions her presence had stirred within William. But William's actions did not go unnoticed by Henry, who observed the master's unusual attention toward Clara with a growing unease. Henry had long served the Prescott family, and he was aware of details others were not, the kind of knowledge that gave him power. His gaze grew colder, his scrutiny of Clara more intense, as if her mere existence threatened something precious to him. His criticism became sharper, his demands nearly impossible, as though he were testing her limits, pushing her to see if she would break. If you find it interesting, please comment number 2. If it is not interesting, please press number 1 so we can fix the content to be better and better. One evening, exhausted but resolute, Clara sought refuge in the garden once more. The twilight cast a serene glow over the flowers, the air tinged with the gentle aroma of blooming lavender. Standing among the blossoms, she let the beauty of the scene wrap around her, a balm for her weary spirit. She was unaware that from a distance Henry was watching her, his expression hardening. To him, Clara was a disturbance, a threat to the structured life he had built within the Prescott household. He resolved to keep a closer watch on her, his thoughts shrouded in suspicion and distrust. As Clara continued her duties, Jonathan's investigation yielded unexpected information. He had uncovered records from nearly 2 decades ago, a series of reports that hinted at a child who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The more he delved into Clara's past, the more he began to suspect that her life held secrets even she was unaware of. He reported his findings to William, whose sense of urgency grew. Each detail seemed to hint at a connection, a possibility that Clara might be someone he had lost long ago. Clara, meanwhile, noticed William's growing presence in the household, his silent observation, the way he seemed to study her whenever their paths crossed. It left her puzzled, uncertain of what this attention meant, but a sense of curiosity began to rise within her, mingled with a hope she hadn't dared acknowledge. As the days unfolded, the dynamic within the mansion shifted subtly. Clara's resilience, her quiet fortitude began to win over some of the staff, who admired her unwavering dedication despite Henry's harsh treatment. Conversations grew warmer, glances softer, and though she remained an outsider, Clara began to feel a tentative sense of belonging. But Henry's demeanor only grew colder, his attempts to undermine her resolve more frequent. Clara sensed his hostility but refused to allow it to deter her. She felt a growing sense of purpose, a belief that her presence here was not just a job but the beginning of something larger, something that she was meant to uncover. In the midst of this, William finally decided to confront Clara. His decision was not made lightly, but the weight of the secrets he suspected demanded clarity. He called her to his office, his expression solemn as she entered. Clara stood before him, uncertain yet prepared. William took a deep breath, his voice steady yet filled with an unmistakable gravity. "Clara," he began, his gaze piercing, "there is a possibility that you might be connected to a part of my life I thought was lost forever." His words hung in the air, a declaration that left Clara stunned, her heart pounding as a swirl of emotions overtook her. The weight of possibility had been hanging over William's mind for days, a relentless pull he could no longer ignore. After countless nights spent piecing together Jonathan's findings and reflecting on the memories the necklace stirred, he knew he had reached a moment of truth. Determined to resolve the uncertainty that haunted him, William finally arranged to meet with Clara privately, setting aside the formalities that typically governed their interactions. In the dimly lit office, lined with antique books and adorned with portraits of his ancestors, William sat behind the imposing mahogany desk, his face a mixture of apprehension and resolution. The soft glow of the lamps cast a warm light on the room, but it did little to ease the tension that filled the air. When Clara entered, her expression was one of surprise mixed with apprehension. She could sense that this was no ordinary conversation, that something about this meeting held significance beyond her usual responsibilities. Taking a deep breath, she approached the desk, her heart beating a rapid rhythm as she tried to keep her composure. William gestured for her to sit, his gaze steady yet softened by an unspoken emotion. He searched for the right words, trying to make sense of the revelation he was about to share, knowing that it would change both of their lives forever. Without preamble, he began, his voice low and filled with a gravity she had never heard before. "Clara," he said, choosing his words carefully, "I believe there's a chance that you may be connected to a past I've tried to bury for years." Her eyes widened in shock, but she remained silent, listening intently. William's gaze fell upon the delicate pendant she wore, the very necklace that had triggered his suspicions. He hesitated, as if gathering his courage, before finally voicing the painful truth he had uncovered. "This necklace, it belonged to my daughter, who disappeared 17 years ago," he continued, his tone wavering. "I believe there is a possibility that you might be her." Clara's heart seemed to stop as his words sank in, each one reverberating with a truth too overwhelming to comprehend. Her mind raced, her thoughts tangled in a mix of disbelief and yearning. Could it be true? She had spent her life wondering about her origins, but never had she imagined that she might be tied to someone like William, someone of such power and influence. Her hand instinctively reached for the necklace, her fingers brushing the familiar surface, the one constant in her life now laden with a weight she could hardly bear. Unable to hold back her emotions, Clara's voice trembled as she responded, her tone filled with a mix of awe and vulnerability. Are you saying that I might be your daughter?" The question hung in the air, her voice fragile yet filled with a deep longing. William's expression softened, a glimmer of hope breaking through his initial apprehension. His voice was barely above a whisper as he replied, "Yes, Clara, that is what I believe, but we need proof to be certain." They agreed to undergo a DNA test, each of them feeling a mixture of excitement and trepidation. While Clara remained calm on the surface, inside she was a torrent of emotions: hope, disbelief, fear. She had spent her life as an orphan, never belonging to anyone or anywhere. And now the possibility of being William's daughter filled her with a sense of both elation and dread. William, too, was torn between hope and the fear of disappointment, his heart aching at the thought of finally finding his lost daughter, only to lose her once again. In the days that followed, as they awaited the results, a fragile connection began to grow between them. They spent hours talking, sharing stories of their lives, of experiences that now felt interwoven with a sense of destiny. Clara found herself feeling at ease with William in a way she hadn't expected, their conversations flowing naturally as if filling years of silence. William, who had always been a reserved and stoic figure, found his heart softening with each moment they shared. He saw traces of his past in her mannerisms, hints of the child he remembered. And yet she was her own person, strong and resilient in ways that only someone who had faced hardship could be. Meanwhile, the shadow of the past lingered in the background, manifesting in ways they hadn't anticipated. Jonathan, ever diligent, had uncovered a startling truth. Henry, the butler who had been with the Prescott family for decades, had been responsible for abandoning Clara all those years ago. Armed with this information, Jonathan relayed the shocking news to William, who was overcome with a fury that he struggled to contain. To think that the man he had trusted for so long, the one who had been a fixture in his household, was the very person who had torn his family apart, filled him with a rage he had never known. Determined to confront Henry, William summoned him to his office, his demeanor cold and unyielding. Henry entered, his usual composure faltering as he took in the steely look in William's eyes. Without preamble, William laid out the accusation, his voice sharp with restrained anger. "I trusted you, Henry. You were supposed to protect my family, and yet you abandoned my daughter." Henry's face drained of color, his attempts to maintain his composure faltering as he realized that his secret was finally exposed. He stammered, his usual calm shattered. I feared for my future, Mr. Prescott. I thought if she were gone, it would secure my position in the household." William's fury was palpable, his voice a low growl as he responded. "You destroyed lives, Henry. You took away the chance for my daughter to know her family, to grow up with a father who loved her." The betrayal cut deep, a wound that felt as fresh as it had 17 years ago. Henry, realizing there was no escape from the consequences of his actions, slumped in defeat, his defiance extinguished. With no further words, William contacted the authorities, and Henry was led away in handcuffs, his actions finally catching up with him. The scene unfolded in a tense silence, the other staff members watching with a mixture of shock and relief. Justice had come for Clara, the truth of her past finally revealed, and with it, a sense of closure for the years of pain she had endured. As the dust settled, Clara found herself standing by William's side, their bond strengthened by the shared trials they had faced. The DNA results arrived soon after, confirming what both of them had begun to believe in their hearts. Clara was indeed William's daughter, the missing piece he had longed for, and the family she had never known. The revelation brought with it a profound sense of belonging, a feeling that, for the first time, she was truly home. The truth of her origins had been uncovered, and in its wake, a new chapter began for both of them, a chapter built on resilience, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter. The days following the revelation brought a sense of quiet anticipation to both Clara and William, as they awaited the final confirmation of their bond through the DNA results. The air in the Prescott mansion felt different, lighter, as if years of hidden sorrow had finally lifted, allowing room for a cautious hope to blossom. The connection between Clara and William grew with each passing day, their conversations becoming deeper, more personal, as they shared memories and stories that wove an invisible thread of familiarity between them. Clara found herself relaxing in William's presence, allowing her guarded nature to ease as she began to believe in the possibility of family. William, too, felt a profound change. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel something other than regret, finding warmth in the idea that his long-lost daughter might finally be by his side. In those moments, Clara dared to dream of a future where she was no longer alone. Her life in the orphanage, the struggles, the years spent wondering about her origins, all seemed to pale in the light of this newfound connection. She and William would often spend time together in the mansion's grand library, or the garden she had grown to love, each conversation a small step toward healing wounds that had remained open for years. William shared stories of his own past, recounting memories of his youth and the legacy of the Prescott family, giving Clara a glimpse into a world she was only beginning to understand. In return, she spoke of her life at the orphanage, the friendships that had sustained her, and the challenges that had shaped her resilience. Yet, beneath the calm, a current of tension remained. As the day drew closer when the DNA results would arrive, both felt the weight of anticipation pressing upon them. Clara found herself torn between excitement and a fear she could hardly explain, a fear that perhaps the tests would shatter the fragile bond they had begun to build. Despite her outward calm, she couldn't shake the worry that something might prevent this dream from becoming a reality. William, too, faced his own fears, a nagging anxiety that the years he'd lost could never truly be recovered. He longed for a confirmation, yet he knew that no result could ever erase the pain of those lost years. Still, he vowed to make up for the time that had slipped through his fingers, to give Clara a family that she could trust and a home that would always be hers. As they awaited the test results, the mansion staff noticed the change in both Clara and William. The strict, distant demeanor William had once maintained softened, replaced by an unexpected warmth that surprised even him. He found himself smiling more, even laughing on occasion, especially when Clara would share a humorous story from her time at the orphanage. The staff, once hesitant to interact with Clara, now treated her with a newfound respect, recognizing her as someone important to the Prescott legacy. Meanwhile, Clara's place within the mansion felt more secure, the whispered curiosities about her origins replaced with a quiet acceptance, as though everyone could sense the transformation unfolding within the walls of the Prescott home. Then, the long-awaited day arrived. Clara and William gathered in his office, the atmosphere thick with unspoken emotion, as they opened the envelope containing the results. William's hands trembled slightly, a rare display of vulnerability, while Clara held her breath, her mind racing with both hope and trepidation. They read the document in silence, each line a confirmation of the bond they had begun to accept in their hearts. The DNA test confirmed it. They were indeed father and daughter. William reached out, taking Clara's hand with a gentle but firm grip, his eyes reflecting both relief and joy. The truth, once shrouded in uncertainty, now lay bare, bringing with it a profound sense of closure. With the confirmation, Clara and William grew even closer. They spent countless hours planning the future, discussing the ways Clara would integrate into the family and how they might make up for the lost years. William began teaching her about the family business, inviting her to attend meetings and introducing her to the key figures within his professional circle. He was determined to share everything with her, to guide her in becoming a part of the legacy he had always believed was hers. Clara, in turn, threw herself into learning, eager to prove her worth and make up for the time that had been taken from them both. During this period, a quiet warmth grew between them that words could hardly express. They were no longer just strangers connected by a possibility but family united by a truth that had waited years to be revealed. William found himself marveling at her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering resolve. Clara, too, felt a sense of belonging she had never known, a feeling that she was finally home. Each day brought them closer, the years of separation fading in the face of the time they now shared. However, there was one final piece of the past that needed addressing, the betrayal that had left them separated for so long. Jonathan's investigation had revealed that Henry, the trusted butler, had been responsible for abandoning Clara all those years ago. William, still grappling with the weight of this revelation, felt a deep anger simmering beneath his gratitude for having Clara back in his life. He knew he needed to confront Henry, to seek justice for the years that had been stolen. The confrontation came on a quiet afternoon, with the staff dismissed and the household silent. William called Henry to his office, his expression unreadable as he regarded the man he had once trusted implicitly. "Henry," he began, his voice controlled yet cold, "I know what you did. You took my daughter away from me." Henry, who had always been a figure of composure and confidence, faltered, his expression shifting to one of fear and regret. He attempted a weak justification, claiming he had acted out of fear for his own future, a misguided attempt to secure his position in the household. But William was unmoved. His voice was like steel as he declared, You betrayed this family, destroyed lives in the process, and nothing can excuse that." With that, Henry was dismissed, his actions exposed, and his betrayal brought to light. The authorities were contacted, and he was escorted from the premises, leaving behind a legacy of deceit that had finally caught up with him. Watching him go, Clara felt a mixture of relief and sadness, a strange sense of closure that came from knowing the truth, however painful it might be. In the aftermath, Clara and William felt an unspoken bond that only those who have shared both loss and reunion can understand. The mansion, once filled with echoes of a painful past, now resonated with the promise of a hopeful future. They spent their days together, building a life that neither had ever thought possible. William guided her through the intricacies of the family business, while Clara brought a fresh perspective, her experiences and resilience adding a new strength to the Prescott legacy. Together, they began to dream of the future, to build a life that honored both the past they had lost and the present they now shared. Clara had found not only a father but also a purpose, a role within a family that would never again be taken from her. And William, who had spent years haunted by regret, could finally let go, knowing that his daughter was back by his side, ready to embrace the legacy they would create together. In the days following Henry's arrest, the Prescott mansion felt transformed. Gone were the shadows of distrust and secrecy that had lingered in every corner. Instead, there was a warmth, a new beginning that each member of the household could feel. Clara and William, now fully embracing their roles as father and daughter, worked together to build a future that honored the resilience it had taken them to reach this moment. The path forward was clear, and for the first time, each step they took was grounded in mutual trust, untainted by the betrayals of the past. William felt a renewed sense of purpose, his once cold demeanor softened by the joy of reconnecting with his daughter. For Clara, this new chapter was a chance to finally find a place to belong, a family that was truly hers. Clara's integration into the Prescott family was marked not only by her presence in the mansion but also by her growing involvement in the family's business ventures. William had always dreamed of passing on the Prescott legacy to someone who would cherish it, and now he eagerly shared his knowledge, guiding Clara with a patience and pride that surprised even him. Clara, in turn, brought her own insights shaped by her years of independence and the resourcefulness she had developed in the orphanage. Her ideas were fresh and innovative, breathing new life into the Prescott enterprise. Together, they began projects aimed at giving back to the community, funding initiatives to support orphans and foster children, driven by a desire to help those who had faced the same challenges Clara once did. Elizabeth, William's sister who had been away for years, returned to the mansion to meet Clara. Elizabeth, warm and open-hearted, welcomed Clara with the affection of an aunt who had been waiting for this moment her whole life. She embraced Clara as if they had known each other forever, her laughter filling the halls that had once been so silent. For Clara, this acceptance meant everything. It solidified her place within the family and gave her a sense of belonging she had never known. Elizabeth's presence added a new dynamic to the family, her vivacious spirit bridging the gap between past and future. She regaled Clara with stories of William's youth, adding color to the legacy Clara was now part of, creating memories that would knit them closer together. Life in the mansion became a tapestry of shared moments, each one strengthening the bond between Clara and her newfound family. She settled into the daily rhythms, not as a servant but as a daughter, a member of the family who was cherished and respected. She continued to spend time in the garden, but now it was a place of joy rather than solitude. Often she would find William joining her, and they would walk together among the flowers, speaking of the future and the dreams they each held. William, who had once been a reserved and solitary figure, began to open up, finding joy in these simple moments of connection. The garden, once her sanctuary from the mansion's rigid formality, had become a symbol of renewal and growth, much like her relationship with William. Together, they decided to transform the mansion, bringing a sense of vitality that mirrored their journey. Rooms that had remained closed for years were opened, filled with light and laughter as the staff joined in the renovations, each person eager to contribute to this new beginning. Clara took a particular interest in the library, her love of books leading her to curate a collection that reflected both her tastes and the Prescott legacy. The library became a meeting place for family and friends, a hub of learning and discussion, embodying the Prescott values of knowledge and growth. Clara's role in the business flourished, and with William's guidance, she gradually took on more responsibility, her confidence growing with each accomplishment. She approached her work with a dedication that impressed even the most seasoned members of the Prescott company, proving herself to be a true leader. William, watching her grow into her role, felt a pride that transcended the business itself. She was more than an heir to the Prescott legacy. She was someone who would carry forward the values he held dear, someone who would make her own mark on the world. The Prescott name, once shrouded in formality and tradition, now represented resilience, integrity, and compassion, thanks to Clara's influence. The mansion itself became a place where people gathered, no longer a closed-off symbol of wealth, but a home filled with warmth and hospitality. Clara and William frequently hosted events inviting friends, business partners, and members of the community. These gatherings fostered a spirit of inclusivity, with the doors open to people from all walks of life, a testament to the transformation that had taken place within the family. The staff, who had once kept to the background, became part of the celebrations, their loyalty to Clara and William unwavering. The mansion, which had once felt imposing and cold, now radiated warmth, a place where stories were shared and memories created. Clara's commitment to helping others led her to establish the Prescott Foundation, a charitable organization aimed at supporting underprivileged youth and providing scholarships to foster children. The foundation was her way of giving back, of turning her painful past into a force for good. William supported her wholeheartedly, and together, they laid the groundwork for a legacy that would extend beyond wealth and status. The foundation quickly grew, its impact felt across communities, each project a testament to the strength Clara had gained through her hardships and the love she had found with her family. Through her work, she became a symbol of hope, inspiring others to overcome their circumstances and seek a brighter future. One evening, as Clara and William sat by the fireplace, reflecting on all that had transpired, they spoke of the future with a sense of excitement. William, his voice filled with both pride and gratitude, took Clara's hand, his gaze steady as he expressed a truth he had long felt. "You're my daughter, Clara, in every way that matters. I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become and the life you've built here." Clara's heart swelled with emotion, her journey from the orphanage to the Prescott mansion culminating in this single moment. She looked at her father, her voice steady but filled with warmth. "Thank you, Dad, for giving me a family, a purpose, and a place to call home. I promise to honor the legacy we're building together." Their journey had been marked by loss, betrayal, and years of separation, but in the end they had found something unbreakable. As the flames danced in the hearth, illuminating the room with a golden glow, they sat in comfortable silence, each filled with a sense of peace. The Prescott mansion, once a monument to wealth and isolation, had become a place of love and belonging, its history rewritten through the resilience of a father and daughter who had found each other against all odds. With the foundation established, the family business thriving, and the mansion transformed, Clara and William had built more than just a legacy. They had created a future filled with hope. And as they looked forward to the years to come, they knew that whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, bound by a bond that had weathered the darkest of storms and emerged stronger than ever. In that moment, they were not just members of a powerful family, but two people who had turned their pain into purpose, their loss into love, and their past into a future that held nothing but promise.